The only thing that we're interested in is putting money in your wallet. If you want to bet the fights, if you want to have a little bit of action, you are in the right place. With my partner, Ian Parker, I am Okamoto.
We're ready to rock between our parlays, our props, our straight picks. It's time to make money. Let's go.
What's up, fight fans? Welcome into another edition of UFC Best Bets with myself, Brett Okamoto, and the man, the myth, the legend, the duck, I believe they call him, Ian Parker, who is going to be telling us where to place our money at UFC Fight Night at the Apex this weekend. It's headlined by a strawweight fight between Jessica Andrade and Amanda Lemos. But before we get to that fight, let's look back on how we did at UFC Fight Night last weekend, and once again was at the Apex. Vicente Luque versus Belal Muhammad. Ian, I think we did all right. You want to talk about your picks last week?
Yeah, look, we started off a little slow with Estela Nunes dropping that decision. That was kind of tough, and then Baeza falling in the first round. But then, remember the name, Belal Muhammad came back, saved us. Not only did he hit the money line with the over 2.5 rounds, and we hit our parlay at plus 275, getting us a nice profitable night. This week, hopefully we get off to a much faster start and finish just as strong.
Yeah, man, if you can split, I mean, of course, we want to win everything, but if you can split the best bets and then those parlays, man, you've been hot with the parlays lately. You had, I believe 4 in a row, and then we dropped 2, and now we're back on, hopefully, we'll create a winning streak going into this Saturday. So let's look at this main card. You can find it on ESPN Plus this weekend. Again, headlined by Amanda Lemos taking on Jessica Andrade. Pretty interesting fight there. Andrade coming back to flyweight after competing at, coming back to strawweight after competing at flyweight for a while. In the co-main event, you got Guida, who has been around literally forever. Claudio Puelles taking on him in the co-main event. Macy Barber, Montana De La Rosa. That's a fun female flyweight fight. Alexander Romanov, Chase Sherman, Lando Venata, Charles Jourdain. Let's pour a little bit out for the flyweight fight that we lost between Sue Madarji and Manal Kape. I was looking forward to that fight. Hopefully we can see it down the road. But let's start with the main event, Ian. You got Amanda Lemos taking on Jessica Andrade, and I think the good news here is that I think we know what these women bring to the table. I don't think that they bring a whole lot of surprises at this point. I think we know who Jessica Andrade is, and now we should know who Lemos is. She got off to a slow start, lost her debut, but then she's been on fire as of late. She's been dropping people in fights. She's been hurting people in fights. But hey, you're going to play fire with fire. That's Jessica Andrade's forte as well. So how do you see this breakdown between these two ladies?
I find this a very interesting matchup, especially for the prospect in Lemos, because her last fight against Angela Hill, I actually scored it for Angela Hill. Lemos is a fighter that she comes out the gate quick. She tries to establish the striking and really tries to get her power going. It's the first time we saw in a really long time her get out of the first round or even early in the second. Going the distance, we saw her fade. We saw the combination slow down and the power get a little bit lackluster, and the striking was starting to get a little bit sloppy. Now, she did, I guess, get the win, so she showed heart and she showed that she can go the distance. But against someone, Jessica Andrade, who I think is an absolute juggernaut, a tank, she's been there before. She's been the champ. She has fought the who's who in most divisions that she's competed in. I'm confused about the odds, Brett. I really thought that Andrade would have been close to a minus 300 just because she takes people out. She does fight smart most of the time. In this fight, her fight IQ has to be upped a couple of notches. She can't go in there swinging hooks because Lemos does have a good jab and a good cross that comes right down the middle. This is where Andrade has to use her wrestling, her strength, get the fight to the floor, and that's where she'll dominate, and that's where I see this fight going.
Yeah, I love it when you talk about that, where you think that the odds should be as compared to what they are, because that's when we're really getting a quantitative measure on what the value is of this play that we're trying to make. And it sounds like, and this is another thing that I love talking about, is that one result has kind of skewed these odds a little bit, and that is that Lemos had, yes, she's on a winning streak, but she very easily could have lost that fight to Angela Hill. Had she lost that fight, would Jessica Andrade be in that minus 300, minus 350 range, like you mentioned. I do want to bring up, of course, the drop back to 115 pounds. Is this a situation where, Jessica Andrade has fought relatively comfortably at that weight before, as she has not really looked like someone who has struggled to make that weight? But is this something where, you really like this play, but she is someone who's dropping down in a weight class? Have you been kind of paying attention to her cut? Will you look at her on the scale? Like, how much do you factor that in this one?
You know what? I think her reasoning for dropping back down is simply a strength situation. She wasn't cutting a ton of weight. We didn't hear about her having many problems. I think she just went up because once she lost at 115 originally, I think she was kind of over it, wanted to change. Sometimes these fighters do that to keep themselves motivated. They love the sport, they want to continue, but getting back in the gym when you get to the top of the mountain and you drop the belt and then sometimes you get a couple losses in a row, it really messes with your head. I think the change going up was good for her, but I think she truly sees that this is the weight where she should be at. Her strength is pretty much unmatched for the most part, other than I think Zhang Weili when it comes to the physicality aspect. And her speed, she doesn't lose anything here. So I think the drop back down is probably a smart one for her.
Yeah, well, and just one thing that I kind of took note of is that Jessica Andrade is used to being a favorite, and these odds are pretty similar to what she was against Caitlin Chukagian. They were pretty even to what she was against Zhang Weili when they fought for the championship. So I don't know if I consider Amanda Lemos on that similar of a scale as a Caitlin Chukagian and a Zhang Weili, who I have clearly, obviously in my top 10 pound for pound for women's fighters. So I think you are right, dude. I am going to agree with you. I think that there is some value potentially taking Jessica Andrade this weekend. Let's move to the co-main event, 155. I talked about two ladies that I said, you know what? I think we know what they have at this point. I think we know who they are. If we don't know who Clay Guida is at this point, then it's impossible to know, right? I mean, this guy has been around for so long. This is his 59th professional fight, which is quite a feat in and of itself. And he quietly had a good year in 2021, taking on Claudio Puelles, who I believe, Ian, you have liked Claudio Puelles before, right? I remember his fights, of course, and I recall, I feel like we've been on him a couple times. Am I remembering that correctly? Do we like him here as a minus 115 favorite?
So this is where betting is very interesting sometimes. You could really like someone in one fight, and then you could just completely go against them in the next one. We did take him in that last fight, which was a strong win for us. I think we also know who Claudio Puelles is to an extent, just more like how much better can he get at what he already does. We know he's a submission ace. We know that his stand-up sets up to get the fight to the ground, and we know off his back he's very dangerous. But he is fighting someone I think stylistically is kind of a nightmare for him in Clay Guida. Guida is pretty good at getting out of submissions, doesn't usually put himself in terrible positions, and he's got a cardio, a gas tank like no other. And I think Guida, at this age, at this part of his career, and this is crazy even saying this, but I think he's really starting to come into his own. This is the best Clay Guida that we've ever seen. Look at the fight against Santos. He absorbed and was able to weather the storm, and he submitted a guy who we consider one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners in MMA or possibly in the world. Now he's going against someone who fights very similar in Claudio Puelles. The only difference is Puelles, I don't think is going to kind of, have that adrenaline dump, and he's not as aggressive. But for me, I think Clay Guida is going to wrestle, use the striking just to kind of keep Puelles on his back foot. And once it's there, he's going to take him down. I think Puelles' jiu-jitsu is good enough to save him from getting finished. Clay's not the biggest finisher in the sport. So for me, I'm going to go with Clay Guida, and I got a little something for our best bets in this fight as well later on.
All right, love to hear that. Clay Guida just coming into his own in his 59th professional fight. Just a late bloomer, I think you might call that. All right, let's go to 125 pounds. Macy Barber taking on Montana De La Rosa. Macy has, done a good job of getting attention to herself at a young age in this sport. She had that knee injury against Roxanne Modafferi. This is her third fight back. She picked up a win against Miranda Maverick, lost to Alexa Grasso. I remember a lot of people, myself included, thought Miranda Maverick probably got the nod there, but nevertheless, Barber comes in with 1-1 in her last two fights, taking on Montana De La Rosa, who did not lose last year. She fought Mayra Bueno Silva to a draw, and then she beat Ariane Lipski. Barber is minus 175 favorite here. Is that too high, or you like Barber here?
You know what? I think out of all the matchups at this point for Macy Barber, this one's a good one. I know people are going to say, oh, Montana De La Rosa is a good wrestler. She could take her down. But where Barber has really had the most trouble is against people that can strike and take fights to the floor. For me, Montana De La Rosa's striking is not there yet. It is still below average, and her wrestling is very predictable. Macy Barber, I think, is going to be the stronger athlete, more physical. And if she could put De La Rosa on her back, I think Barber can get it done. I think this is finally a matchup for Macy Barber that makes a lot of sense. I'm going Macy Barber here. I think the line is just right, good enough for us to still take her as a favorite. Interesting.
So just right, and I agree with you that stylistically, I do think that this is not as challenging of a fight as she's had, in some of her previous ones. Did you look at any props in this one, Ian? Do you get greedy and maybe look at a method for Macy Barber, or you just like her with the straight up?
You know what? For me, if you do want to take a prop, I could see Macy winning this by decision. You know, De La Rosa showed in that fight against Silva that she's extremely tough. She took a lot of damage, but she didn't give up. She didn't quit. She's hard to put away. So if you do want to go that route, by decision works for me. I just think the line is low enough where we can take her straight.
Okay, good stuff. Moving to the heavyweight division, we got Alexander Romanov. He's 15-0, taking on Chase Sherman, who is still around here in the UFC. A 15-9 record, not the most impressive record, and the odds reflect that. They got him at plus 750. Now in the heavyweight division, I don't know about you, Ian, but minus 1,200 in the heavyweight division. I don't care who it is. It's a little scary to me. Does that scare you at all, or is Romanov as advertised here and a safe play?
Well, look, minus 1,200. I think the line's actually possibly jumped and is still going to climb. That line's too high to do anything with, but Romanov should absolutely have his way with Chase Sherman. This is the worst matchup for Chase Sherman you could possibly ask for. You got a guy who's essentially the human form of a polar bear. Romanov is fast, good wrestling. As long as his cardio holds up, I think he gets this done relatively quickly. So minus 1,200 is not even good for a parlay. So if anyone out there can find odds on getting it done inside the distance, if that's manageable, if not, TKO or sub, take your pick. You might get closer odds there. I do see Romanov winning this without even breaking a sweat. So that line, I get it, but unless we got Dana White money, I'm not laying those type of odds.
And only Dana White has Dana White money, so I know certainly you and I do not have that kind of money. All right, we'll finish up the main card in the featherweight division. Charles Jourdain taking on Lando Venata. This fight kind of looks like it has fight of the night written on it, potential there. Charles Jourdain has been extremely entertaining. He was supposed to fight Ilia Topuria in January. Unfortunately, that fight fell through and Topuria missed weight. Lando Venata, he has alternated wins and losses in his last 5. He's also been going the distance quite a bit. How do you see this matchup? It's pretty interesting to me.
You know what? For me, I think Jourdain got a better opponent for his style than Ilia Topuria, who I think would take him down and have his way. For me, I do like Jourdain in this one. It's a lot closer, I think, than the line reads, even though it's only minus 125. Look, Lando Venata is a very tough fighter, well-rounded, doesn't go away. To your point, does go the distance a lot. The reason why I'm taking Jourdain is because Venata takes a long time to get started and does not put up a lot of volume, maybe till the third round. Now, if he is able to use his wrestling, he could potentially get the win here. I just think what we saw out of Jourdain in that last fight was volume, was mixing up his kicks, and the takedown defense was pretty solid. So I'm going to lean Jourdain. Not my favorite play. However, again, another thing that we're going to do with this fight, we're going to include later on in our best bets. But for me, if I had to pick a side, I think Jourdain's striking is better, and that's going to get him the win.
All right, that's the main card. You're teasing your best bets. We will get to that at the end of the program. But let's go ahead and jump to your parlay, because you were quickly becoming known, at least to me, as Ian Parlay Parker, because you've been so hot with these in 2022. Come on, man, get us another one. What's the parlay this weekend?
All right, so Tyson Pedro, he's a very heavy favorite. We're going to get him at inside the distance at minus 275. Venata Jourdain, we talked about it before. We're going to talk about it again. Fight goes the distance. Both guys are decision machines. Macy Barber, we're going to take her money line here. Therefore, we don't have to rely on the props. I still think she gets it done over Montana De La Rosa. I think her physicality and her defensive takedowns should be the way to go. And Guida and Puelles, over 1.5 rounds. It's a high line for a reason. Both guys, decision guys. So we're going to put that together. We're going to get a nice plus 309 payout on the four-way parlay.
Yeah, plus 309. Great odds there. Okay, so we got the parlay out of the way. We got the main card talked about. Let's get to the rest of these picks here. ESPN Plus, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. You can catch all of the prelims right there. Take us through your picks, Mr. Parker.
All right, so Jordan Wright versus Barriault. You know what? I'm actually going to go with the underdog here in Jordan Wright. I know he lost to Bruno Silva in that last fight, but he did tag Bruno Silva. He has the ability, and Barriault has not impressed me enough to be a minus 200. Grant versus Sergev. I like that the fight goes the distance. Tyson Pedro, Ike Villanueva. Let's go Pedro getting that win by submission. Next fight, over 1.5 rounds between Ellis and Oylang. Preston Parsons and Elder. Right now, I could not find a line on this. Both guys relatively green. I would stay away and enjoy the prospects. Practio and Philip Linz over 1.5. Both guys just don't finish, and they like going the distance. So why not And Dean Barry versus Mike Jackson, you heard that name right. Let's go Dean Barry inside the distance. Even at minus 200, there's a reason why that line is where it is. And that's what we're going to do for the prelims.
All right, let's highlight just one of those, and that is, of course, you know which one I'm going to go to, the Jordan Wright underdog pick, because I love it when you're giving out underdog picks. Talk about that one just a little bit more, your degree of confidence. I know that all of our viewers, when they see a plus sign in front of that number that's going to pique their interest, they're going to want to take that. How confident are you in that pick, and why ultimately are you going that way?
You know what? I feel like in this fight, a lot of people are going to probably look at Jordan Wright, no pun intended, the wrong way. They're going to look and see, oh, he got knocked out by Bruno Silva. He got knocked out by Joaquin Buckley. But if you pay attention to the Bruno Silva fight, up until that happened, he was winning. He was being very smart. He was moving his head. What happened was he rocked Bruno Silva, and he just, instead of being a little bit more methodical, taking his time, I think he got excited as this big underdog, thinking, I'm going to pull off the upset. He ran in, and then he got tagged, and that was it. He's fighting someone in Barrial who kind of just rushes in, throw these wild hooks, and in the clinch, he's not overly threatening. Now, if he could put Wright on his back and hold him there, sure. But Barrial just seems to be a guy who likes to put on a show, throw caution to the wind. And we saw in that last fight against Nokiani, that doesn't work out well for him either. So for me, between the two, it's a dog or pass play. So I'm going to go with Jordan Wright, the Beverly Hills Ninja. I think he might surprise people here.
All right, my friend, we have gone through the prelims. Now we've gone through the main card and your parlay. The only business left to attend to is the best business, and that is the business of your best bets. Where are we going this week?
Start off the main event. Let's make it 2 in a row. Jessica Andrade, the veteran season experience, that power, that cardio. I think she gets it done here. Get out of the first round safely for her, and I think she wins. Guida, Puelles, we talked about this early in the show. We broke it down. We talked about the cardio. We talked about the defensive Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This fight goes the distance. Kaling and Ellis over 1.5. If you look at these guys' records, both are not finishers. I think it takes some time for the two to get started in round 1. A lot of hesitancy. Let's make sure that gets into the third round to play it safe. And Practio versus Lins over 1.5. Both guys sit on their back foot. They're not overly aggressive strikers. And I think Lins is really going to be fighting for the contract to stay in the UFC, dropping into a different weight class. So for me, he's going to play it safe. He's going to try to get the win, and that's going to round up our best bets.
I love it, man. You've been very good on parlays this year. You've also been very good in main events, and it sounds like you're very confident in the main event this weekend at the Apex. Jessica Andrade getting it done. I agree with the pick. We will see if we are correct. Hopefully we are, and we can put a little bit of money in your pockets. Again, the main card starts on ESPN Plus at 9 Eastern. You can find the main card and 6 Eastern for the prelims. For Ian Parker and for myself, thank you for watching UFC Best Bets. We will see you right back here next week. Take care.